Throughout the last few decades, anti-anxiety and depression drugs have consistently made the top 10 lists of prescription medications in the United States. This is neither a coincidence nor an accident. Our world is incredibly stressful. In actuality, a large number of Americans suffer from anxiety problems in one way or another. Though it may present in various forms, there's no denying that it obstructs the path to a more productive existence. You must learn to manage your anxiety if you want to succeed in your relationships, simply be a happier person, or advance in your work. Regretfully, the majority of people utilize inappropriate coping mechanisms to deal with their anxiety, making this easier said than done. It is likely that if you are reading this book, you or a loved one is experiencing anxiety on some level. Please be aware that the alternatives this book offers you will assist you in overcoming anxiety. In the end, anxiety is a result of a confluence of factors including your genetic predisposition, environment, and coping strategies. Never undervalue your power to influence the course of your circumstances. Many people believe that they have little control over their health if they are genetically predisposed to any certain illness. Stated differently, their circumstances are beyond their control. This is quite unfortunate since it helps the multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry if people keep thinking this way. There isn't much you can do if anxiety is beyond your control and is just a given, and your only option is to receive some form of psychopharmaceutical intervention in addition to counseling. There's not much of an option left to you. I would like you to realize that you have a lot more say and power over this than you think. Now, please realize that I'm not advocating against seeking professional assistance for psychological or psychiatric support. It's not at all what I'm saying. I advise you to work with a professional, but please be aware that you can augment any advice or medication you receive with self-care activities. These are techniques for resetting your mentality so that you can continue to be in charge of your life. You are experiencing anxiety because, deep down, you believe that you are powerless. You get the impression that you are living in a universe that you did not create, and you are experiencing negative emotions such as guilt, regret, and doubt related to the past, or there seems to be something terrible about to happen for a variety of reasons. Please remember, though, that the past is the past. Those events have already occurred. It's not as if you can enter a time machine and change the course of events. These are facts. They already took place. You aren't able to do much about them. There are spills in that milk. On the other hand, since nothing has happened yet, you truly have nothing to worry about if you're anxious about the future. The events you fear are still in the future. Dealing with your thinking right now is truly the only option available to you. Your relationship with the past will improve and you will be better prepared to deal with the future when it arises if you can control your current thinking to the fullest extent possible. In this book, you'll learn how to manage your anxiety without the use of pharmaceuticals, without costly professional psychiatric counseling, and only by organizing your mental and emotional furniture. Chapter 1. Do a self-audit. List down all the things that cause you anxiety. This presumes that you are aware of what anxiety is and that you experience specific emotions in a variety of contexts throughout your life. Not all the time is this the case. Anxiety goes undiagnosed in many people. They truly aren't sure what it is, but they are upset about it nonetheless. Although they won't call it anxiety, it might behave similarly. Therefore, as far as possible, put anything that you know to be a source of concern in writing. Write down all the things that you fear. We're merely going to follow a self-audit regimen that uses strong emotions or strong sentiments as a guide, since a lot of folks are unsure about what precisely causes them anxiety or what constitutes anxiety. You will thus make a list of everything you are terrified of in this situation. Enumerate each one of them. There is no such thing as an incorrect response. Even if something appears absurd, almost comical, or illogical, put it in writing nonetheless. It's all about you in this. Your responses won't be read by anyone. Here, it's important to assist you in gaining a comprehensive understanding of the things that hinder and burden you. Make a list of all the things you have done wrong. It is for these that you feel regret. It's these that you wish had never happened. Perhaps you have already said or done these things in the past. Put them all in writing. This place has no intensity level. It's sufficient to write down anything as long as you can recall it immediately, and it does occasionally cross your mind. Write down the things that you are doubtful of. Do you have any doubts about any of your relationships? Is it possible that you don't feel affection for your parents? Perhaps you believe that your parents are unloving of you. Perhaps you feel that you don't believe in your relationship, in the religion you've chosen, or in the religion your parents practiced. Put your doubts down on paper, whatever they may be. Right off the top of your head. Try to be as impromptu as you can. We're attempting to come up with a comprehensive audit of everything that's circling in your mind, so jot down everything. There is no right or wrong response. Make every effort not to edit yourself. Recall that no one will be verifying your responses. The most crucial thing is to write down everything in your mind. Jot down whatever comes to mind at that moment. Don't doubt your abilities. Don't change the notes you made. Consider what transpired with clarity. And just put everything down on paper exactly as it comes to you, and as long as you can explain it. Avoid editing it. Don't increase or decrease its intensity. Give yourself time to write out full lists. It's acceptable if it takes a few days, or even a week or two. Just allow yourself enough time to jot down a detailed list of everything that worries you. It's crucial to remember that you shouldn't overwork yourself when doing this. This is not some kind of purposeful, carefully thought out, highly organized exercise. That would be counterproductive. Creating an extensive list to assess your fears is the main goal here. You must be as thorough as you can for this to occur. Regretfully, you tend to edit yourself when you're under a lot of stress. You frequently draw attention to some things while obscuring others. Writing all of these things down while taking a shower is a superior strategy. When was the last time you had this thought while taking a shower? Yes, that is what individuals frequently do. Because they aren't forcing themselves to think in a certain manner when they are taking a shower. They are more receptive to true insights and intuitive flashes. When you are performing a self-audit, do that. Chapter 2. Prioritize your list. Rank your list in terms of intensity. After reading your lists, provide an intensity rating. How do you feel, for instance, about the father you never met because he left you when you were still in your mother's womb or when you were a small child? How strong is the feeling? Which feelings are you experiencing? Perform this action for each item on your list. It will require some time to complete. Taking what you've written at face value is simple. It's quite easy to assume that just because you recall particular events as emotionally charged, that's all there is to it. You may choose to take a different approach. Allow yourself to experience the feeling deeply. To what extent is it intense? Is it constantly high? Are you positive that this isn't a one-time event? Are you certain that you aren't recalling anything? They can be really difficult. The instant you recall these recollections, feelings have to shoot through your head. You are unable to consider feeling resentment toward that memory from the past. That is ineffective. It must be an intimate, first-hand emotional encounter. Give yourself time to adequately gauge intensity. After reading your lists, provide an intensity rating. How do you feel, for instance, about the father you never met because he left you when you were still in your mother's womb or when you were a small child? How strong is the feeling? Which feelings are you experiencing? Perform this action for each item on your list. It will require some time to complete. Taking what you've written at face value is simple. It's quite easy to assume that just because you recall particular events as emotionally charged, that's all there is to it. You may choose to take a different approach. Allow yourself to experience the feeling deeply. To what extent is it intense? Is it constantly high? Are you positive that this isn't a one-time event? Are you certain that you aren't recalling anything? They can be really difficult. The instant you recall these recollections, feelings have to shoot through your head. You are unable to consider feeling resentment toward that memory from the past. That is ineffective. It must be an intimate, first-hand emotional encounter. Be completely honest. Please realize that you are not attempting to win over anyone with this. You're not attempting to establish a point. You're not attempting to emulate anyone. There is no one observing. You must be really honest with yourself because no one will see your list. Because the only one who would suffer if you were dishonest or if you somehow held back would be yourself. In the end, your loved ones and other nearby individuals will also suffer. Thus, be truthful when it comes to how you rank and prioritize your fears. Chapter 3: Categorizing your anxiety challenges. Start categorizing with your most intense anxieties. Ask yourself where your worries connect to, starting with the ones that really irritate you. Is there a major theme that connects them all? Do they have historical significance? Do these include any abuse of any kind? Do you regret any of these actions? Are they involving someone you hold responsible for a great deal of your life's misfortunes? Do you believe that these are aspects of your vulnerability stemming from personal weaknesses? Construct additional themes. The secret to this is to create a distinct image or box for every list you have. And these trends will become more apparent the more you go through your list. Categorize all your anxieties. It will take some time, but you must group all of your mentioned fears according to the themes you have identified. Creating categories for your memories and feelings can be difficult, I have to admit. For this reason, it's a good idea to combine many categories together. Please be aware that not all of your emotional experiences can be perfectly described by one category. Please feel free to combine different categories to create new, more descriptive ones. Play around with free association. Although many individuals believe that a particular memory must be classified in a particular way, you shouldn't instantly assume that this is the only option. There are times when doing free association will lead to specific pairings. You might be able to recognize previously unconsidered categories. There's no need to feel under pressure to fit all of your recollections or self-audit data into a single box. The secret is this: You shouldn't feel under any type of obligation to complete this. Eliminating the notion of the right way against the wrong way will also greatly aid in the classification of your emotional memories. Recall that they belong to you. You are perfectly entitled to categorize them in a way that makes sense to you. The secret is this. Since your motivation for doing this is self-help, this is not something you're doing to win over others. This isn't something you're doing because it's a homework assignment that needs to be graded. You need to be able to understand it to treat your anxiety problems. Please feel free to check multiple items for the same anxiety. Perhaps it's something that occurred in the past that you find difficult to forget, regret, or that involved abuse. Put that experience under 3 boxes in that scenario. Make notations of the intensity of the anxieties that you have categorized into themes and rank them. As much as possible, assign a number to each of your worries. This won't be simple because, more often than not, recalling a horrific event makes us feel as though a tsunami struck. It feels like our emotions are so strong that they just take over. However, when we consider the bigger picture and compare our worries to other worries we may have, we find that although it initially seems so intense and overwhelming, it is rather mild. So, when you rank all these fears under each theme, you need to consider the big picture. Chapter 4. Believe you can overcome. If you believe, you will achieve. Please realize that your beliefs are the basis for your existence. You will succeed if you have faith. It's going to be a lot more difficult for you if you don't believe. This does not guarantee failure, but it will make things more difficult for you. Before embarking on the process of conquering your anxiety, you must have a clear mental image. If not, your mentality will undermine, sabotage, and obstruct you all the time. Your mentality causes you to run out of steam before you realize it. What's so important about your mindset anyway? Your life is dictated by your mindset. Selective reality is triggered by selective perception, analysis, response, and action, all of which are components of mindset. How does mindset impact your reality? You can actually edit your world with your attitude, believe it or not. I understand that's a strong word because editing changes something's form. You alter its course. You eventually alter its quality. Everybody edits their unique reality. This truth remains true even though the majority of us choose not to accept full responsibility for it. This is something that we can all do. This is the mechanism at work. You're thinking in a certain way. You have, at some point, made the decision, believe it or not. Though it might not appear so, that is the reality. It is selected. If your mindset wasn't your choice, you wouldn't hold on to it. This way of thinking is not impartial. You give them meaning when you filter all of these objective cues from the outside world through your mental lens. We refer to this as analysis. Don't fool yourself. Although it can feel normal and as though this is the only reality, it's not. This is subjective because two individuals with completely different perspectives can examine the same set of information and come to two quite different opinions. That is the mentality's power. Your mentality is influenced by a variety of factors, including your early years, your upbringing, the way you were treated by others, any abuse you experienced, and your beliefs. It is also yours. What happens when you interpret reality via the prism of your mentality? Yes, it is correct. Your emotional condition is impacted. This therefore causes you to react to whatever is happening in a particular way. This is where things get interesting when you answer. Why is that? Yes, there are repercussions for every action you take. There is a response to every action. That is how reality operates. Because of this, whether you realize it or not, adopting a particular attitude leads to the eventual creation of a particular reality. And everything is up to you. You will remain the person who constantly asks what happened rather than the one who takes action until and unless you fully own up to this. Your life is the product of your mindset. You must accept accountability for your life. Your choices are ultimately responsible for your extreme anxiety, guilt, or shame over certain things, and feelings of shame over other things. Now, please realize that this is not a victim-blaming situation. That's not the point. Perhaps you were the victim of sexual abuse, maybe you were the target of a crime, or maybe other people had it in for you. The idea is that you are accountable for how you handled such situations, since two completely different people can experience the same horrific incident and react to it in two completely different ways. Although it may seem oversimplified, this is the reality. Your mentality greatly influences how you interpret the stimuli in the outside environment. Your perception and acceptance of reality are influenced by your mentality. You are the one who needs to own this. You have to say out loud that you selected your life without any room for doubt and with all of your integrity and sincerity. Give up placing blame. Placing blame on someone else gives them authority and control over your life. You are effectively giving other people authority over your life when you hold them responsible for everything that has gone wrong in your life, or, worse still, your own shortcomings. Consider this: if all of your issues stemmed from your mother mistreating you as a child or your father leaving you when you were a youngster, then who is ultimately responsible for solving them? It's not complicated science, this. This should be quite simple to understand. To put it another way, who can set things right if you break anything when you walk into a store? Who can reassemble everything? A hint, it's not the store owner. See how this operates, do you? It seems to reason that since the individuals you still hold responsible for broke your life, they are the only ones who can make it right. They can repair it since they are the ones who initially broke it. This is the issue. Either those persons have already passed away or are living their lives. They have vanished. They're no longer in your life, no matter how you cut it up. They have moved on. If you keep waiting for them to reappear in your life to help you piece things together, you're only setting yourself up for failure. This is the result of placing blame on others. You find yourself saying things like, "This happened to me," or "I'm not responsible because this person did that at that time." You are giving people or circumstances that you cannot control the answer to whatever is wrong with your life, which makes this the most helpless thing you could ever do to yourself. Attempting to change oneself is difficult enough. Can you imagine attempting to change others? Could you picture yourself attempting to persuade them to return to you and make amends? By accident. They have moved on. They've evolved. You must accept accountability. You must assume responsibility. It is up to you to initiate action. The injustice of it all is known to induce pain. But hey, what do you know? Life is not fair. You must take that action. Saying, "It may not be my fault that this happened, but it is my responsibility to myself that I accept how I process this information," is a necessary step toward taking charge of your life. Stated differently, you relinquish the blame on others and assume complete accountability for the events occurring in your life. Chapter 5: The Future Begins with Me. You have to commit yourself to change your mindset. Everything I'm going to talk about regarding conquering anxiety is both achievable and very likely if you shift your perspective. You would be more than capable of handling the mental and emotional strain required to bring about a significant shift in your reality perception, self-image, and interpersonal relationships. Put differently, it's an opportunity for you to lead a fresh, more successful life. However, it all starts with your choice to adopt a different perspective. How important are decisions? You must realize that making a decision and just thinking about making a decision are two very different things. Too many individuals mix up the two. They consider themselves to be making a choice, but in reality, they are only considering their options. They haven't arrived just yet. They continue to weigh a great deal of items. They continue to take a lot of things into account. However, they have already made up their minds. For this reason, a great deal of people who believe they have made a decision ultimately fail because they never did. Your decision locks your thoughts into a specific course of action. You also align your decision-making process with your emotional state around a particular subject. Nothing about this mental state is ambiguous. You've switched on your motivation and are locked in. You're excited about your choice. Now, presuming that you do come to a decision point, you could be thinking that all kinds of amazing things happen after that. I wish things were that easy. Making a decision is merely the start. When you make a sincere decision, it indicates that you will follow through with dedication. What is the significance of this? When you persist in investing time and effort even when you're not feeling motivated, that's when you know you're dedicated. When those around you call you foolish or advise you to go back after making a mistake, you know you've given it your all. When you persevere in the face of several obstacles and unanticipated circumstances, you will have demonstrated your commitment. That is the force of dedication. Even while something sounds amazing, it doesn't happen until you make a choice. These two complement each other. Changing mindsets is not easy. Everybody is a creature of habit. Sometimes, despite our best efforts to change, our old routines and behaviors resurface. However, you must stay committed and utilize all of your might to break free from your habits. Pay attention to what you have to gain. Concentrate on the sense of relief you have when you turn away from the things that are currently making you feel miserable, furious, sad, and annoyed. Do the reverse if you find it difficult or seems too far or abstract to concentrate on what you stand to earn. Pay attention to how painful it is to remain the same and not change. As you can see, people on this planet can be divided into two categories. Some people are drawn to success and the better things in life on the one hand. Put differently, they let their desires drive them. On the opposite end of the spectrum are those who, should they sense that everything is about to fall apart, will stop at nothing to improve their situation. Put differently, their motivation stems from fear. The good news is that there is no right or incorrect response. It makes no difference if your worries and insecurities drive you or if your greatest aspirations, dreams, and ideals do. It's vital that you keep moving toward your objective by placing one foot in front of the other. Decide what inspires you and take action to bring about that change. Dedicate yourself to mindset and attitude change. Make a list of affirmations. These are brief affirmations that you repeat to yourself as often as possible throughout the day in a clear, non-verbal manner. Although it may sound absurd, affirmations are effective. Why? They serve as a deliberate reprogramming of your own story. If you are facing difficulties in any aspect of your life, it is likely due to a personal story that is causing you to suffer. For instance, you can be operating from a personal story that suggests you are not a very trustworthy person, or that you are simply too busy to commit if you find it difficult to keep your word. With everything else on your plate, you can't honor your word. Besides, you are a victim at your core. The reason affirmations are effective is that they let you deliberately create a new identity or program for yourself. The more times you hear this, the more probable it is to stick with you and into your consciousness. It takes time to become effective, but with consistent, committed practice. Establish a personal journal for changes in your life. It could appear that keeping a personal transformation journal is an easy ministerial activity. You are, after all, only embarking on a personal path toward revolutionary change. It could appear as though nothing is happening at first. It could even appear as though you're merely passing the time, or, worse still, just going through the motions. It's important to clear your mind of these unfavorable ideas, since maintaining a personal change journal can transform you as you strive to alter your perspective and become less worried every day. Why is that? You can't help but feel inspired when you consider where you came from, the kind of thinking you had, and how you described your personal life in comparison to where you are now. Consider this: before you started this process, you most likely believed that your anxieties and worries were a part of who you were. You get a sense of imprisonment. You have the impression that you are stuck in this circumstance and that there is no way out. This is your identity. This is part of who you are as a person. However, there's optimism when you look at a later entry and realize that your perspective has shifted. Not everything was as bad as you believed. As it happens, the situation isn't as dire as you first thought. This provides you with a solid incentive to keep moving forward. Although the adjustments might not be that significant, becoming a hero is not necessary. You should be able to find optimism in the knowledge that you have altered, even if just slightly. This makes it possible for you to commit again. Remember that dedication is the key to changing your thinking so that you experience less anxiety and dread and are a more effective person overall. The good news is that people will be encouraged to see your dedication level without any effort. All it requires is a small adjustment. Seek out that alteration. Establish and maintain a personal change journal to help you recognize and monitor that change. Reaffirm your daily commitment to the endeavor of altering your perspective. Honor the strength of a regular commitment. Many people who pledge to make changes in their lives have the mistake of believing that they have already committed. After all, they're thinking to themselves, "Well, I'm doing the same thing every day, am I not?" Is that not a commitment? They are entirely true, to a certain extent. However, a small amount of consciousness is needed to accelerate that process and unleash the power of that daily decision to commit to a given set of acts regardless of how we are feeling and regardless of what is happening in our environment. You can align your conscious talents with your habitual side by simply telling yourself, "I am committing today," and then meaning it the next day. You now have greater power as a result. Additionally, it helps you rediscover or remember your mission in life. Recall that your goal is to alter your perspective. You are attempting a challenging task. Usually, it takes a major catastrophe or something incredibly positive for people to shift their perspectives. Except in those extremely uncommon situations, people adhere to their perspective. You're engaged in a major project. As a result, to assault the process with maximum force, you must be as aware of it as you can. Challenge your mindset every day. Spending time with challenging individuals can be inconvenient and feel like a waste of time. However, it can also be a fantastic chance to gauge how far you've come in shifting your perspective. Recall that you are not altering those individuals. That isn't the main idea. The key is to see if the people who used to annoy or confuse you no longer do so, as it is the only way to determine whether you are truly changing. You may tell yourself all the positive things you want to happen to you, and you can visualize the change you want to happen, but unless you make the change in situations that often make you feel uncomfortable, you aren't truly moving forward. So, identify those difficulties. I am aware that the majority of people would find these situations extremely challenging, even poisonous, but that is precisely the reason you should look for them, since they truly challenge you. Chapter 6: Taking Hold of the Past. Stop letting your past define you. Too many people live by the shadow of their history. They made a huge mistake, and they believe it is the only thing that makes them valuable to humanity. They believe that to be their identity. They believe that's the limit of their ability to advance. Perhaps you were incarcerated. Perhaps you are facing charges. Perhaps you regret something you did to someone else. Perhaps you were mistreated and made to feel inferior, helpless, and feeble. Please accept that whatever happened to you is now in the past. The past is the past. The past is now in the past. You can't go back in time and alter the events that took place. These events occurred. Living your life in a way that makes you happy, content, productive, loving, and compassionate is now your task. Put otherwise, you must live in the present. Regretfully, you aren't doing that when you are dwelling on the past and expending a great deal of emotional energy contemplating what ought to have occurred, what may have happened, or what could have happened. The more you dwell on those who have harmed you, the worse they seem, and the more severe the anguish gets. This ruins your relationships and current way of thinking. When you act in such a way, you are not being responsible. When you do that, you are not exercising self-control. Tackle the past head-on. You must decide to confront the past head-on. You should follow the steps listed below after opening your notebook or record of previous events every few days. You are responsible for this. To overcome the burden of the past, you must maintain consistency in this area. Ask yourself if the past trauma that you remember happened. False memory is a real phenomenon. In actuality, misleading memories are constantly ingrained. If you don't think it's feasible to have false recollections, consider the 1990s. There were numerous controversies in the United States during the 1990s involving therapists creating false memories in the minds of their patients or clients. This is because people are naturally very suggestible. You place yourself in a highly vulnerable situation when you come across someone who you believe and trust primarily because of their title or perceived power. You allow them to readily sway you and even make their recommendations appear as though they originated with you. Many counseling and psychiatric therapy sessions were conducted in a rather free-form manner during the 1990s. Regarding suggestibility, the protocols weren't very explicit. It is not surprising that in this environment, patients' thoughts were left with a variety of misleading associations and suggestions from therapists who emphasized or proposed particular linkages. People lost their lives. Imagine having a family where all members got along and loved one another as a child. You held your mother and father with the highest regard. Afterward, you consult a therapist when you experience marital issues or alcoholism later in life. After that, the therapist puts you through a careless, unorganized procedure that causes you to develop false memories of being abused by your parents. If you have a false recollection of your father sexually abusing you as a child, how can you mend the relationship you once had with him? Can you see how this was an issue in the 1990s and is still an issue now? It's more common than we think to have false memories. Exercise caution when handling them. Examine every memory you have. In actuality, human memory is incredibly flawed. Things are frequently recalled by association. Our memories become confused and we create an entirely new narrative when we encounter someone or an event that somehow connects to anything we remember from the past. What we believe to be true turns out to be incredibly false. Therefore, consider this: did all of these horrific past experiences that you have highlighted in your journal occur? To the best of your recollection, ask yourself, were they real? It follows that you were present. You experienced something with your senses of hearing, smell, seeing, touching, or tasting. Put another way, you could know that this was real using your 5 senses. If not, can you get confirmation from other people that you indeed experienced this? Do you know someone close to you who could confirm that what happened? I was there. I witnessed the entire thing. I heard her say that. I heard Mom say that to you, and so on are examples of statements that support their claims. Ask someone else to provide you with evidence if you were not present when it happened. If not, then record those encounters. Eliminate false experiences. If you are unable to locate any written documentation, if you have no first-hand memories of the incident, and if no one else can confirm what you have heard, make the definitive decision that these events never happened. When you find yourself thinking about them again, tell yourself, quietly and boldly, this is not true. It's not real. This memory is not authentic. This is not something I want to be involved with. You stop feeling the typical wave or domino effect of negative emotions when you do that. Why expend so much emotional and psychological energy on things that never happened? You have to keep repeating the above pattern until it starts to make sense, even though it may seem contrived and even like you are essentially just spitting in the ocean. This is a crucial step in fully accepting responsibility for your fake memories. If this isn't exciting enough for you, consider the suffering you experience when you believe lies. They weaken you, make you feel insignificant, and cause you to lose faith in other people. Being there is not a good thing. Connect the doomsday scenario of not repeating memory self-ownership assertions with that bundle of bad emotional states. Yes, it may feel dull, useless, and ineffectual to keep saying these things over and over again, but what other options do you have? It's just not possible to claim that what you currently have will improve significantly. You're reading this book because you want to escape the negative emotions, anxiety, and terror that are caused by false memories. Remember that false recollections can cause suffering. Okay, so this seems repetitive and mechanical, and I feel like I'm wasting my time, but what do I have as an alternative is what you should say to yourself. Is it truly my desire to return to the suffering that my delusions bring? The contrast that results from painting things so starkly emphasizes the importance of what you're doing. I am aware that there are undoubtedly a gazillion other things you would prefer to take care of. Everybody is busy. But trust me, you begin to take back your life when you identify your false memories and repeat these affirmations. A better life is being invested in by doing this action. This is not denial. I want you to know that you are not engaging in denial. You are not attempting to hide a problem. Rather, you're acting logically. It didn't happen if you didn't experience it, and no one else did either. Why will you have to keep punishing yourself for something that never happened? This is made up. And you held on to that myth over the years for whatever reason. It may have provided you with numerous justifications, assisted in explaining your circumstances, or fulfilled some other function in the past, but it is now a burden. It is now preventing you from living the kind of life you need to be living and pulling you down. When you remember that thing, it's time to put an end to the lunacy and just stop yourself all the time. Simply state, "This is fake," as soon as you begin to consider it. When I act like way, I'm lying to myself. Express your rejection as negatively as you can. Perhaps you ought to state, "This is a false memory, so thinking about it would be foolish of me. This isn't true. I will no longer be foolish." Or something similar. You will eventually cease when you become accustomed to it, because it is senseless to expend additional emotional energy on unrealized events. Chapter 7: Overcoming Exaggerated Memories. Identify your exaggerated memories. The next step is to concentrate on your exaggerated recollections once you have recognized and eliminated your false memories, which may take several weeks or even months. These are memories based on real events. There were human beings present. You attest to the fact that this did occur. There is proof of it in one form or another. It is undeniable that these events took place. The issue is that you overstated the specifics. Stated differently, you exaggerated the situation. You exaggerated the situation. You chose to grab on, blow it up, and attach such a toxic significance to it that it still bothers you now, even though it could have just been something that other people would have laughed off or brushed off. These recollections are overblown. Relive each exaggerated memory one by one. Try to place yourself in that heightened memory context as much as you can. Imagine yourself in the situation. Put yourself in that situation. Focus on the information that you already know. All right, these are the facts. Not according to your understanding. Please be aware that those two topics are completely unrelated. Pay attention to the facts as they occurred. Write down fact versus interpretation. When analyzing what happened to you, try your best to record what happened, what you believe happened, and what you believe it meant or symbolized. Please remember that these are only responses. These are opinions expressed in an interpretation. Write a long list of all your interpretations. Over time, interpretations and individual analyses evolve. Our perceptions shift as we become older and evolve. Thus, just draft a lengthy laundry list. Pick out interpretations that empower you. A scenario can be interpreted in a variety of ways. There are numerous perspectives on it. A lot of them are counterproductive. Many give you the impression that you're little, frail, and helpless. Many reinforce your belief that you are a victim in some way. Those are interpreted negatively. Choose the interpretation of that experience that gives you the most empowerment out of the many that you have. These are interpretations that give you the impression that you're important, that you can influence your life in some way, or that tomorrow is still in the future. To put it another way, there is a way out or a chance for hope. Those are optimistic views. Kill your negative interpretations by understanding their nature. Examine your negative perceptions of the recollections from the past and simply ask yourself, am I exaggerating these? Or am I imagining things? Or am I interpreting these too strongly? I'm not getting any help right now from whatever it is that I am reading about what occurred to me. I'm not getting much out of this interpretation. Thus, make use of this approach to purge your list of plausible theories for what transpired. Interpretations that are empowering are all that remain. Play up your empowering interpretations. You are not practicing self-hypnosis, self-deception, or anything of the sort as long as your empowering interpretations are grounded in real facts. Rather, you are interpreting the situation based on fact. However, you must examine and clarify your positive interpretations. Do they have a direct bearing on the event? Are they directly derived from the encounter? If so, make them more noticeable. You must realize that even if you had a bad event, it might have been a turning point in your life. You can use that experience as a breakthrough to your own personal power, autonomy, strength, wisdom, beauty, change, and hope, rather than something that can make you feel small, weak, powerless, ugly, repulsive, dumb, stupid, foolish, or anything else. It all comes down to viewpoint. However, you must base that shift in viewpoint from being merely all right or positive to being positive on the truth. Return to the specifics of those encounters and state, for instance, my father abandoned my mother before I was even born. I was able to become more self-reliant, to always be appreciative of what I had, and to work hard to earn what I had because to this experience. This is LeBron James' narrative if it sounds familiar. Do yourself a great favor and examine what transpired, focusing on the positive impressions you created to see the triumph there. Stress them. Test your change of mindset by constantly thinking of exaggerated memories. Immediately concentrate on the good things that come to mind as you recall these inflated recollections. Immediately pay attention to how empowered you feel. It eventually turns into a habit. Because in the past, you exaggerated these recollections in a very unfavorable way when you thought back on them. You had a bad feeling. You experienced weakness. You had a bad feeling. You feel terrific right now. But the fundamentals remain the same. However, you must realize that what does not kill you just makes you stronger. Although it may have seemed catastrophic at the time, it turned out to be the motivation you needed. For instance, a girl who grows up to become a supermodel is told by her mother that she is ugly. Why? Since she desired to disprove her mother. She didn't have the luxury of having everyone tell her how beautiful she is, so she had to learn how to boost her confidence by focusing on other aspects of her appearance. Let's be clear about one thing. Countless individuals in this world are only interested in you. They have decided to make your life miserable because, for whatever reason, you have offended them. They will inform you that they don't like you, at the absolute least. All right, it makes sense. In actuality, you shouldn't assume that someone would hurt you just because they say or do something to hurt you. Nobody in this world can make you feel lousy without your permission, to paraphrase Eleanor Roosevelt. It doesn't matter if you feel unworthy, disgusting, ugly, stupid, scummy, or ashamed. These are all just interpretations. They are not obligated to accept your gift. You are ultimately in charge, therefore you don't have to let them get to you. You have control over them, or they have control over you. See the obvious decision? Assume command. Assume responsibility. It's vitally important, even though it might not be straightforward or even comfortable. Chapter 8. Practice Mindfulness. To alter your mindset, you must engage in some kind of mindfulness practice and maintain constant awareness of it. Being mindful helps you focus on the here and now. You're not consumed by worry about the past or the future, nor are you bent out of shape over it. You are, on the other hand, concentrating on what is going on right now. You're paying attention to reality as it happens. Different models of mindfulness for different people. When it comes to mentalities, different people have varied tastes. Certain forms of mindfulness and meditation work better for certain people than for others. It's important to reject the notion that there is a single mindfulness technique that works for everyone. Rather, go through and try out the many mindfulness exercises that I've included below. It should be noted that this is not a comprehensive list. These have a wide range of variants, just as there are numerous distinctive approaches of cultivating mindfulness. These are merely serving as an example for you. After you've gotten the hang of these methods, or if you choose one and find that it works for you, you may want to go further and look into more mindfulness or meditation practices. Present observation meditation. Another name for this technique is single object observation. During present observation meditation, all you are doing is focusing your attention on something that is directly in front of you. All you're doing is that. The reason this kind of mindfulness or meditation is so effective is that you focus all of your sensory energy on that one thing. You're not thinking about past childhood trauma when you're so preoccupied with the texture, color, shape, and all the other descriptive dimensions of the object in front of you. The things you typically worry about are not on your mind. There's no doubt that you're not anxious. Rather, you just give your mind permission to concentrate all of its energy on something that is in front of you at this very moment. This helps you develop a great deal of mental, emotional, and spiritual discipline as well as bringing you into the present. Fantastic. Who? Waking meditation. This is another name for walking meditation, and it's one of the most useful mindfulness meditation practices out there. The main idea behind walking meditation or waking meditation is to permit yourself to be present in an outdoor environment, observing all the sights, sounds, tastes, textures, and scents. Stated differently, you are giving yourself the chance to completely experience life at a specific moment and location. You allow your thoughts to become fixed on the here and now while you're processing all of this information. You're in a little room, honoring time and life. Yes, you are walking, but you are also walking with your center of interest. This is a fantastic method to psychologically take complete control of your environment. You develop a great deal of discipline since you are continuously changing your emphasis from this. Additionally, it lets you interact with Mother Nature on your own terms while you're out and about. Thus, this is an extremely effective type of meditation practice. It's also quite useful. You're not closing your eyes, you're not assuming the lotus position, and you're not locking yourself behind closed doors. Rather, you're out and about, living your life to the fullest. Transcendental meditation. This method employs a silent mantra. The word transcendental lends an air of dread to the phrase transcendental meditation. Many people don't feel very comfortable around religion. They find it inconvenient. I get it. All right, enough. However, keep in mind that transcendental meditation employs a meaningless, silent mantra. In the Buddhist and Hindu traditions, mantras are said to have symbolic meanings. That's not the case here. It's a recurrent phrase that helps you regulate your breathing to track your consciousness rhythmically. The reason transcendental meditation works so well is that it gives you the ability to develop a rhythm of consciousness inside yourself that allows you to subdue thought. Transcendental meditation doesn't cause thought when done correctly. How much strength is that? You appear to be thinking about something terrifying, unsettling, or frightening nearly all the time, which is a sign of anxiety. There is something about fleeting thoughts that exacerbates your anxiety about the past, the future, or other people. That is exactly the reverse of transcendental meditation. It is completely detached from any sense of self, uncertainty, fear, rage, or other emotions. Why? You are not thinking. Transcendental meditation evaporates thoughts. Since they never really appear, they are unable to have any kind of emotional impact. That is the extent of the power of transcendental meditation. The finest aspect of it all, though? It's quite simple. Your silent mantra gradually becomes ingrained if you simply repeat it. Sooner rather than later, your thoughts begin to evaporate. And they don't even form before you realize it. Astounding stuff. As a result of being released from material and bodily attachment and clutching, many people report experiencing tingling in their extremities. You don't have to feel in charge all the time. There's no need to demonstrate your worth. Holding on is not necessary. That is the extent of the power of transcendental meditation. Counting your breath. You can observe your thoughts above with this strategy. You will soon be able to separate yourself from your thoughts when you count your breaths. It feels like you're lounging back and taking in the sky's rolling clouds. Even though some clouds are large and dark, if you stare at them for a while, you'll discover that they move slowly. If given enough time, they will eventually fly entirely above us. Counting breaths and acknowledging your ideas will help your thoughts ultimately just go through your head. You will discover that all you need to do is acknowledge your thoughts once you understand how to appropriately count your breaths. You do not reject them. They're not being ignored by you. All you're doing is recognizing their existence and letting them go. You don't attempt to grasp them. You don't try to make sense of them. You don't try to overcome them. You don't try to face them. None of those things. You typically do such activities, which explains your anxiety. You are therefore overcome with a variety of negative feelings, including regret, guilt, and a feeling of unworthiness. Counting breaths, on the other hand, allows you to realize that a thought is a part of you and still accept ownership of it, even though you let it go and allow another to take its place. You allow that to happen. Before you know it, you'll be able to consider some topics without necessarily being overly emotional or worked up about them. This alone makes it worthwhile to include the counting of your breath's mindfulness exercise in your daily routine. Choose a type of mindfulness or meditation, whatever it may be. When it comes to permanently and sustainably controlling your anxiety, you will be doing yourself a great favor. Chapter 9. Practice Make Perfect. Unless you feel it, it's not real. If you hold on to the knowledge I have imparted to you here, it is all meaningless. You must perform them. You must put them into action, or else the rest of the world will respond negatively. In actuality, it makes little difference how the outside world responds. It matters how you react to their response. You can tell if you're maturing in this way. You can tell if you're evolving in this way. It's frightening because you're taking charge of your life and not just laying there and accepting everything that life throws at you. However, you have to realize that you get better at something the more you practice. You must approach your work with an intense emotional urgency. There are tremendous benefits to conquering anxiety via altering how you perceive external stimuli and your connection to the past. Flip the script if you're still unsure or if you don't experience the pleasant rush of emotional urgency that comes from concentrating on your advantages. Try to draw emotional energy from the knowledge that things will only grow worse if you don't alter your current course of action. Imagine how horrible things will get if you allow your anxiety to worsen. Concentrate on the defeat, the paralyzing uncertainty, and the helplessness. Are these motivating enough to get you started on the path to living a life free from anxiety? Unleash the power of momentum. You improve at something you do over and over again. That is true to the fullest extent. It's not a theory at all. That's not conjecture. That's the way things are. No matter what we're discussing, trade, education, relationships, or anything else, you become better at anything you repeatedly accomplish. You gradually get the feel of it and improve your performance as you work through the kinks and learn more about it. Thus, simply hold on to it. Give yourself a nice boost of motivation. I have a trick that helps me to motivate myself when I feel like I'm running out of steam when it comes to attempting to alter the way I view the world and how I handle my anxieties and phobias. I just finished reading my personal journey journal. I went back to my first day and made a comparison between how I felt and thought then and how I feel and think now. I promise you that this inspires me greatly and gives me a lot of hope. It serves as a reminder that I have progressed. I'm not a hopeless case that is unchangeable. I can hope for change. Thus, do out this action. Furthermore, it makes no difference if you started on day 1 and are comparing day 5's entry. Something has changed of some kind. Even though it might only be slight and require searching, even a tiny improvement is enough for optimism. Chapter 10: Best Practices for All Natural, Self-Directed Anxiety Solutions. Get an ally. We are sociable animals, humans. When we are alongside other individuals, we perform so much better. Our performance significantly improves when we assist others. Please do yourself a great favor and ask for assistance. This person is an ally. It may be your spouse, your mom, your girlfriend, or your boyfriend. It has to be someone you love, whatever it is. In a sense, that individual will accompany you on your journey. Let your ally hold you to account. Truthfulness and sincerity are the basis of the system I have taught you in this book. Put otherwise, to overcome your bad self-programming and thinking, you must be honest with yourself. Regretfully, we can easily deceive ourselves with great ease. We can easily fool ourselves into believing our lies. You have to let your ally to examine you, though. In other words, you have to allow them to make you feel bad. Since it is painful to be informed that we are delusional about ourselves, that none of the things we're saying are true. We deceive ourselves. Although it hurts to hear, that is a must. Thus, allow that individual to assist you appropriately. A surgeon must first cut to heal. Always review your narrative. Everyone has a story to tell. Everybody has a hidden script, which is the narrative we tell ourselves about our lives. Oh, I'm poor, I'm dumb, I just can't do it, or this is who I am, are some of the things we say to ourselves. Such types of things. Those, then, are the things that impede us. It's also critical that you examine your script in light of your newfound understanding of your beliefs, past experiences, and future fears. Allow yourself to feel good. Own up to it once you've altered your perspective and noticed changes. Declare this is beneficial. I'm getting better. I'm entitled to be pleased about this. The inability to ever let yourself feel pleased is one of the most prevalent and annoying aspects of anxiety. You never permit yourself to believe that you are making progress. Therefore, acknowledge and celebrate any significant change that you observe or that your ally informs you has occurred. Take that person out to lunch. Examine your accomplishments. It's a significant accomplishment. Because you were someone else previously, you've made progress toward becoming the person you want to be. Conclusion. If you don't use the information I've provided you in this book, it's useless. About these materials, you must act. Today is the day that you must act. You must give it your all. This isn't something you can just dive right in, throw yourself into it, and then give up a few weeks later. This is an ongoing issue. Because you begin thinking about the appropriate things when you exercise greater mindfulness in the topics you choose to think about. You begin to consider your life from the perspective of being able to feel content, whole, and triumphant. Because you feel more in control, things will gradually fall into place. This is the life that you have chosen, not the one that has been thrust upon you. Not the life that fell into your lap by some random lottery winner. Stated differently, you begin to lead a life of authority and accountability.